Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Your burger is served, and this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Hello, everybody. This is the Tour Coach, and it is Masters Week. My favorite week of the year, as I'm sure it is yours. It's like a holiday. It's like a religious occasion. Unfortunately for me, I'm not coaching and teaching there this year, but if you're sitting down, you're listening to the Tour Coach, you know these are my conversations and my stories and roundtable discussions from my travels and Jackson Court's travels in the world of golf, whether they're teachers, they're players, coaches, fitness experts, whatever it is. It's the people that we meet, we talk to, trust, learn from, work with. All of it, we sit down and we talk and we share it with you to hopefully help give you some enjoyment, give you some inspiration, and also, more than anything, help your game. And so if you've been listening, you know the last several weeks we've been doing a Masters giveaway with our new content going out on Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube. Look, all you got to do is go to YouTube and type in hashtag Dew Sweepers TV, Dew Sweepers TV hashtag on our YouTube channel. Join the channel, like it, go to the description of our podcast here, wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to it and type hashtag Dew Sweeper TV, and you register for a giveaway Monday morning after the Masters. We're going to give away a set of Shrixon irons of your choice. We're going to give away 12 dozen Shrixon balls and a dozen Shrixon gloves to one lucky winner. Great opportunity to get some great Dew Sweeper Shrixon gear. All you got to do is check out our content over on YouTube, and that's Dew Sweeper TV. Our follows are going through the roof. The views and the comments about our content have been overwhelming. So please check out Dew Sweeper TV over on YouTube, and an opportunity to win some great Shrixon gear Monday after the Masters. Going to give away a set of Shrixon irons, 12 dozen Shrixon balls, and a dozen Shrixon gloves for one lucky winner. We'll do that drawing and announce it, so make sure you check it out. Great Masters Week. We're going to have a lot of content coming to you here on the Tour Coach, and we're going to kick it off today. So make sure you listen, subscribe, and none of this could be remotely possible without our sponsors, and that, of course, is Shrixon Golf, Bushnell Golf, Vineyard Vines, Mitch McConnell and the folks at McConnell Automotive and Buick GMC, and you obviously can't forget Ed Rowan, Taylor Martino and Rowan, and Stokely's Midtown Garden Center. All of that support makes the Dew Sweepers radio show, the Tour Coach, and Dew Sweepers TV all possible. So stay tuned. Masters Week is upon us. You got a great chance to win. And don't forget, subscribe to this. Go to the description of the podcast. Like it and comment. Hashtag Dew Sweepers TV. Go to YouTube. Hashtag Dew Sweepers TV. Or repost this on any of our social channels, hashtag Dew Sweepers TV, and you could win the Shrixon and Dew Sweepers gear. Enjoy Masters Week. It's first major of the season. I'm ready for it. Are you? All right, so this is very cool for me. Jackson, also, thank you so much for sitting in with us. Joining us here to kick off Masters Week here on the Tour Coach is a good friend of ours. We've been fortunate enough to teach with him a couple times. Legend of the game, Bill Harmon. Bill, thanks so much for taking the time. Not only a great teacher, but great caddy. And his father won the 48 Masters. I can't wait to kick Masters Week off with you. And I was pumped when I texted you and you said you would be willing to sit down with Jackson and I. So thanks for taking the time.
Well, it's first of all, it's good to hook up with you two again. We did a nice golf school down there at Frederica, I don't know, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I met Jackson, and I'm glad both of you are doing well, and I'm doing okay myself.
So let's start. There's a lot we could cover here. I mean, there's so many. I know you've got great memories and great stories from there, and I've been fortunate enough to coach there just a few times. And like, to me, the cool thing about Augusta is the stories you take out of there. How it really is.
Yeah.
Like, everybody that's been there has a story. And I could sit all night and listen to yours, but let's start with your early memories and the stories about your father. I couldn't imagine growing up with a father who's a Masters champion. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you about the stories.
Well, at age 73, I was having lunch with somebody today that had cut a picture out of the 1958 Champions Dinner, and my dad was there. And I said to him that, even at this stage of the game, I still get emotional when I see these pictures of him in the Champions Dinner, or whenever I go to Augusta and I see his locker in the Champions locker room, I get a little choked up. So it's not one of those things that ever goes away. And I think the older I get, the more I appreciate it and the more special it becomes. So the feelings that I have for my father being a former Masters champion has not diminished over the years. In fact, it's grown immeasurably.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When was your first visit to Augusta?
1967. It's funny. My mother was from Boston and my dad was born in Savannah. A lot of times they say Tommy Aaron was the first native Georgian to win the Masters. That's not true. My dad was born in Savannah. And I think it was on a Saturday, and my dad said something to my mom about getting ready to go to Augusta the next morning. And she said, I've given you 20 straight years, and why don't you pick one of the boys? And I was the only boy living at home at the time. My brother Dick was in college, and Craig was in college. So he told me to pack my bags, and the next day we flew to Augusta, Georgia. We had dinner in the trophy room on Sunday night, where I met Bobby Jones and Cliff Roberts. And we walked out to the 10th tee. It was a beautiful evening. And if you've been to Augusta National, I don't think I've ever seen a prettier inland hole without water than the 10th hole Augusta National. And it's an awesome experience because it's so downhill and the trees are so big. And I didn't realize how close the 18th green was to the 10th tee, because when you don't see any people there, it's a 40 yards or something. And my dad started the last round with a 2-shot lead, and he was playing with Byron Nelson the last round. He was a club pro, hadn't played in the tournament all year. And he birdied 6, birdied 7, and eagled 8. And he stood on that tee with an 8-shot lead. So I asked him, what does it feel like having an 8-shot lead on the 10th hole Augusta? And he pointed over the 18th green and he said, there wasn't a person in the world that could give me 8 shots in 9 holes. And I'm going to walk back up that hill over there. And I'm going to win the Masters on that green right there. So it was kind of a cool moment and a very, very little insight to what he was thinking, that no one can give me 8 shots in 9 holes if I know it, basically. Mm-hmm. If Arnold Palmer would have said that to himself on the 10th tee at the Olympic Club years ago with a 7-shot lead, maybe right. But I think he just assumed he had it won. I think my dad realized there was a lot of water that had to be crossed, that he should play accordingly. So I think he shot 37 the back 9 and won by 5.
Great. In fact, as a club pro, obviously, and I listened to you. I've listened to you bunches of times in person and at the stuff when the U.S. Open was at Winged Foot. Came dangerously close to winning at Winged Foot as well.
Well, in 1948, he got to the semifinals of the PGA when it was match play. And he lost on the 38th hole. So he was very close to winning 2 majors 1 year. And in the quarterfinals, that's when they started playing 36 holes. And he beat Sam Snead in 42 holes. So he went toe-to-toe with Sam and beat him. And then he lost on the 38th hole. So he had an outside chance of winning 2 majors. He had 5 top 3s in majors as a club pro. To put that in perspective, Jay Haas hasn't had 5 top 3s in majors. I'm not knocking Jay. I'm just putting it in perspective of a guy that didn't play on the tour. So it wasn't a fluke. I said last year when Michael Block had that wonderful tournament at Oak Hill, he finished 15th. And I said, I'm not taking anything away from Michael Block because it was a heck of a performance. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. But let's back up here a little bit. I know a club pro that had 5 top 3s in majors with a win. So he was a heck of a player. And for a guy that never played the tour, to be able to, you guys are players, to be able to feel that comfortable in that arena. It's funny, the last time I was at Augusta was 2 years ago. I played with Craig and Butch. And we went up to the champions locker room after dinner one night. And we sat by his locker there on the bench. And all 3 of us got kind of choked up. I don't know, it all kind of hit us what a incredible ride we've had in this game of golf. And we sat down and I was telling Craig, I have a picture of Dad. He played the last round at Wingfoot with Ben Hogan. And there's a wonderful picture of Hogan hitting his drive off the first hole, and it shows the clubhouse in the background. And over in the corners, my dad's standing there leaning on his club. And now that I've been around the game a lot, I look at that picture and I think, wasn't my dad scared to death, to play the last round with Ben Hogan on his home course with an outside chance to win the U.S. Open? 43 years old with 6 kids, so it wasn't like he was in his prime. And I say that's probably what surprises me the most, that he was confident enough he shot 70 and Hogan shot 76. And Craig said something that was interesting. He says, I think Dad thought he was one of them. And I don't think you could perform that well in that spotlight if you didn't think you were one of them. So I think in the back of his mind, he knew they were better. He knew who Ben Hogan was and Sam Snead.
Right.
But he knew that if he played well, he belonged on the same golf course with them. So I think deep down, although he had a great respect for all of those guys, he knew that if he took care of his business, he belonged on the same golf course with them. And he did belong.
Don't you think that, I think that's one thing different in the game today as far as the club professionals. Back when your father was a club professional, played majors, they, to me, the difference between, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but the difference between the club professional and the touring professionals changed a lot over the years. And I guess that's why they make such a big deal about the Michael Blocks.
I agree with that.
Which was a great deal.
I am not knocking what Michael did at all.
Absolutely.
I was there. I was in Rochester that week. I know the course, I know the shots he hit. I am not knocking that at all. It was a phenomenal performance, and playing the last round with Rory and making the hole-in-one at 15. But what it did for me, selfishly, was highlight how good my dad was. Now, you have to remember, there wasn't a lot of money in professional golf back then.
Right.
So there were a lot of tour pros that actually had to have club jobs here and there. The only difference is my dad never did play the tour. So he wasn't one of those guys that went and played. But back then, Tony and Jackson, you'll know this. You don't have to be a player to be a golf professional anymore. You don't have to be able to.
Right.
And so back when I was growing up at Wingfoot, if you were going to be an assistant pro, you had to be a good player. And so Dad had 3 assistants that won majors. How about that?
Wow.
So, Jackie Burke, Dave Maher, and Dick Mayer. So he mentored 3 of his assistant pros that won major tournaments, and other good ones like Mike Suchak, who never won a major, but still. So
Unbelievable player.
My dad's contributions to the game, and he mentored over 60 of his other assistants to be head professionals. So the tree that my mother and father started in golf is still growing as I sit here right now. And I think he's actually, if you look at his contributions to the game, you look at what his former assistants did because they taught their assistants the Harmon Wingfoot way, et cetera, what my brothers have accomplished, the people that our families had the, to be able to touch people is such a gift. So I say my foundation is also part of this tree. And so the Harmon tree that my mother and father started back in the 40s is still growing. And I don't know of too many golf professionals that have affected the game, to be honest with you, anywhere even close to one. Not even close.
No, I would agree.
I'm not saying that. You just look at the record. That's all. You can look up who, Bob Ford, great. Did he ever win a major? He made cuts in majors, which is a tremendous achievement. Wonderful guy, wonderful head pro, the whole thing, But did he have assistants that won majors? Did he, So when you look at this thing that my dad started, and it's still growing as we speak, it's a very, very humbling experience to be a Harmon. That's how I look at it.
No, it's special, and that's not even counting. That's the playing and the professional side. That's not counting what you've done to the teaching business and the impact that your father and you and your brothers have all had. And I mean, certainly,
I was down at Congaree last month.
Mm-hmm.
John McNeely, who worked for my dad and my brother Dick, Bruce Davidson, who started for my brother Dick as a caddy at River Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
Dick mentored him so well that he became the director of golf when Dick retired. And Gordon Johnson, who just retired from Houston Country Club, he worked for Craig and Dick. And so they were telling me stories about my father that I'd never heard before, of their experiences with him. And almost every story they told about my dad, they got choked up about what he meant to their lives and their profession. And so I occasionally have people ask me what it's like to be a Harmon, and I say it's cool. I mean, what I've been exposed to, I didn't have anything to do with it, by the way. So I've been along for the ride, and I'm just trying to add another branch to the tree, and hopefully it'll be a nice branch.
It's definitely a nice branch. Let's shift to, you've been around Augusta a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me as I look back, from the first time I went to now, like the golf course and the place has changed a lot, but it doesn't seem like you think of it that way to me. I don't know why, but like when you go there, you realize the holes have changed a lot. From your recollection, from where you started to now, how do you look at the changes and how the golf course and the tournaments changed in particular? And you've caddied there, which is a great bird's eye. As a teacher, you don't see much of it inside the ropes, to be honest.
No. Well, I don't think the changes were their fault.
Okay.
I think it's the fault of the equipment manufacturers in USGA. That's my take on it. And they've allowed all these great courses to become obsolete. And I don't care how physically fit these guys are and stuff. And I get all of that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in 1980 was the first time they ever started taking the statistics and the long drive. I think the two guys that won or had the longest drive average was Percher and Dan Pohl at 276.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 330 might be the average or something of the long drive guys. So it's 50 yards. So you're going to tell me they're in 50 yards better shape? Physically, instruction has improved that much that guys are going to gain 50 yards on these. So I think I think they've had to make changes to keep the place competitive. So on one hand, I don't like them. But on the other hand, I understand the necessity of it. And now you have, clubs that go 40, 50 yards further and don't curve as much. And you're going to keep the fairways 60 yards wide. I just don't. I personally don't enjoy watching tournaments anymore that 25 under win. I could care less. Every hole's a drive and a wedge. Every par five is a drive and a 6-iron. And God, if they have to hit a 3-iron to a par 3, it's just an unfair hole. And so I think that the equipment has ruined the game from the professional level. I know I'm in the minority that way, and I'm comfortable with it. But I would prefer to see the roll back on the ball is not going to make any difference to me. What I'd like to see him do, I'll tell you what I'd like to see him do, and they can experiment on the Korn Ferry Tour and some of those secondary tournaments next to the big tournaments like Major League Baseball did with a pitch clock, whatever. Have some tournaments where you only get to use 9 clubs and collect data for a couple of years. And if it's a stupid idea, it's a stupid idea, but do something, I think. Do something.
We're obviously talking Masters, but I walked a golf course today at a live event that I know you've been around as a caddy plenty of times, Doral.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And I was watching, especially yesterday. The wind was blowing 20 plus.
That used to be a really hard course.
But I was watching. It's a hard golf course.
Yes, it is.
Right. There was water, and I was watching how they had to think about where they left the tee ball. Couldn't run it out into bunkers, and it left longer clubs. And Andy Ogletree hits it plenty long, right?
Yeah. Well,
right. But he hit 2 or 3 5-irons into par 4s. That doesn't happen.
No, that's an unfair hole, Tony.
Right?
That's unfair. That's a bad hole. That's unfair. That's too hard. That's unfair,
But crazy, but I liked it. I enjoyed watching players think that way around it, and that it isn't just bombing a driver, and it was thinking, okay, I could take on this, but I might be in worse. I'm going to hit a 3-wood and hit a 5-iron. I thought it was great golf.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good golf course.
Doral, so it's a hard course to navigate around because you have a lot of crosswinds. Mm-hmm. Very rarely when I was there were you straight downwind or straight into the wind. It was always some kind of crosswind. So you
always across.
Yeah, and so I remember the first tournament I ever caddied in was the 1978 Doral Open. I caddied for Jay, and he was paired with Jack first 2 rounds, and on the 10th, 11th, 12th hole, 13th hole, the par 3, Jack hit a 1-iron one day and a 3-wood the other day. How about that? And wow. Jack wasn't short, by the way.
No.
So he didn't say it was an unfair hole. He just won the tournament. That's all.
You've watched players from so many ages. We talked before we came on the air. You've caddied in 4 decades. Am I correct?
7.
7.
Don't shortchange me here, man.
Hey, sorry.
I caddied for Butch in the 1969 Canadian Open. That's how I got that 7th decade.
Okay. He crept you in there under the wire. Sorry.
Yes, he did. About time he did something for me.
Yeah, I know.
Just kidding. We're brothers. This is brotherly love.
He talk about your caddying experiences there, and talk a little bit about, so when you first caddied at Augusta, I was watching one of the old Masters. My favorite is I grew up, and I know you caddied for him at least once. Ben Crenshaw is my idol as a kid growing up. Mm-hmm. Just the way he was when I was a kid, grew up a little bit in Texas. He was my idol. Had him on the radio and the stuff a few times. I mean, and like watching him at Augusta was like, even when I went there as a coach, like I would still walk around and try to find, that type of history.
Sure.
But like I watched the old Masters. I love watching the old replays, and you see him with the old Augusta caddies.
Correct. Yeah.
So when did that change? If you don't mind explaining a little bit, because people don't necessarily know that. And how different was that coming in as a caddy, Bill?
Well, it was, I believe, 1982. And, having had a father who won the Masters, who used Augusta caddies, that was the biggest week in their lives every year. I understood why the players wanted to bring their caddies. They should have a right to, let's say, choose their lawyer if they're going to be at a big trial. And if they have a big competition, they should be able to choose who they want. So I understood all that. But at the same time, I was very aware of the fact that we were taking away a pretty special week in their lives. So I didn't really feel real good about it, to be honest with you. It wasn't something like, about time they let this happen. So I recall they had a much different locker room back then for the caddies than they have now. And so we were, kind of mingling amongst the caddies back then in the locker room. And I just felt that I needed to be very respectful of, I wouldn't say we were unwelcome, but I wouldn't say they welcomed us with open arms either. I never really felt any ill feelings, but at the same time, I think I was very aware of the fact that this is something that hurts them, hurts their income. And let's face it, there was nothing for them to like about it.
Right.
Why should they like it? And so I read a story in a magazine. Actually, somebody sent me this story about the old caddies and some of them that are still alive. Cigarette, I remember, and I know Carl a little bit. And I still feel for him, to be honest with you. I feel that, when I started caddying in 1978 on tour, I'm going to say there were 40 or 50 African-American caddies. Mm-hmm. And when I go to a tournament now, I don't see any African-American caddies. And I can tell you that 10 or 12 years that I caddied on the tour, the African-American caddies added a lot to my memories. Herman Mitchell and Sampson, all kinds of guys, Big Lee. And I would sit around and listen to their stories and they had tremendous humor and rabbit. And so I felt that they added to my caddy experience in my life a lot. And so when I go to a tournament now, it kind of hurts me a little bit because there was a flavor there that you couldn't recreate. And so their stories, and they started caddying. You think the players didn't play for any money. The caddies weren't making any money. Mm-hmm. And so I always appreciated what they added to my life and my experience as a caddy. So when I read the article the other day about the 82 Masters, I felt a lot of sadness.
Yeah, I caddied as a kid at Shoal Creek.
Oh, there you go.
When I in 87 to 89, I caddied Shoal Creek. Wow. And I was one of the very few non-African Americans, mm-hmm. especially younger. Sure. My dad had been, anyways, but it was a great experience. And I was a young kid trying to figure out how to play, but sitting in that caddy shack, I learned a lot. I learned a little about golf. I learned a lot about a lot of other stuff. And it was, there was
wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome.
Absolutely, it was great.
And they treated me like I was one of the guys, one of the kids.
I love listening to them. I got all kinds of stories I can recall from my days with those guys, and all of them, every one of them is very memorable to me.
Mm-hmm. Talk about caddying out there. Obviously with Jay, and I know from the teacher perspective with Bill. Yep. Talk about the caddying aspect out there and some of the decisions like 15. You told me a story before. What I want to hear that again. I think it's priceless.
At Augusta, to be totally fair, we had no idea how to read those greens early on. None. Zero, zip, nada. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, they have in the yardage book they have a dot on the green part of the yardage book where Rays Creek is to tell you where the putt might be influenced. So we all misread one putt after another the first 4, 5, 6 years, I would say. And they're really hard greens to read. So I think in many respects, the Augusta National Caddies would have done a much better job green reading than I did. That's for sure. I had a lot of thrills at Augusta caddying. I'll get to that story with Jay in 86, but one of the big thrills was Jay qualified to play when he was 49, and he got paired with Nicklaus the first 2 rounds of Jack's last Masters. So 36 straight holes, standing ovation on every tee. 36 straight holes, standing ovation on every green. And when you're out there caddying, you're working hard, but you can't help if you're human to realize that there were 6 people on those greens, 3 players and the 3 caddies, and I was one of them on every green. And one thing I did learn from being a Harmon was that you had to be appreciative of what you have in life. And so even though I had a dad who won the Masters and all that stuff, I felt humbled to be on every one of those greens with Jack. And sadly, I don't know how it worked out this way. I don't know how they came up with this, but Jack's last hole was not on 18, it was on 9. He didn't get to walk up 18.
Why?
Whoever made the pairings, because back then they started pairing them for 36 holes. It used to be they repaired every day. And so his last hole was not walking up the 18th hole, which I think was a big mistake on somebody's part. All they had to do was tee him off on the back 9 on Thursday and the front 9 on, because he was how old he was, so there was a chance he might not make the cut.
Right.
I think they whiffed on that myself. And so his last hole was a 9th green. He hit it in there about 6 feet, had a straight uphill putt, and he's birdied the last hole 5 million times in his tournament. I think the standing ovation lasted minutes. And I kind of got off to the back left of the green. The pin was in the front right because I like being in the audience and checking things out. And I was just sitting there thinking how cool this was. Not a dry eye in the house. And finally, I saw Jay walk over to him and put his arm around him, but I couldn't hear what he said. And afterwards, Jay told me that he walked up to him. And it's funny how moments create certain emotion that you couldn't plan. Jay walked up to him and said, "When you stop crying, I'll stop crying." And that was kind of a cool moment. So that's probably
that's awesome.
Probably the most memorable part of it. Now, from a perspective of being in contention, Jay was in contention in '86 when Jack won. In fact, Jay played with Jack on Saturday, so that was another cool moment. And Jay was having a good last round. Now, he had to be, Jack beat him by 2 shots on Saturday. I think Jack shot 69, Jay 71. So Jay was probably 4 groups ahead of him. But he came to 15, 3 back. If you eagle 15, that's happened at Augusta. You don't know what's going to happen from there on in. But it's hard to believe they were playing wooden clubs back then. Because I remember this moment vividly, and you know the story. And it was the worst caddying job maybe in the history of golf, the worst caddy job. So in the practice round on Tuesday, Jay wasn't a long hitter, so he had to be more of a technician. And he asked me, he pointed to a sprinkler, and he said, "How far is that?" And I said, "It's 234 to the front." He said, "Well, let's make a decision right now. If I don't drive it past that sprinkler, we're just not going to go for it. It's no decision. I can't afford to make 6s on these holes. I just have to play the course differently." So he hadn't missed a shot all day, and it was warm. If you see any of the replays of it, everybody was in shirt sleeves. And he was flushing every single shot. And my dad told me one time, and I'd shared this with Jay, that you only gamble when you're swinging good. You never gamble when you're swinging bad, which is a hell of a little pearl, I would say. Don't gamble when you're swinging bad. So we get up there, and I'm looking for this sprinkler because I'm sending them, And boy, oh boy, we get up there, and he's 7 yards behind the sprinkler, and now you get 241. And 241 back then to carry, when
long way.
This starts my process of stupidity. So I want him to go for it. And I know that if he flushes a 3-wood, he can get it there, because it's warm, he's playing good, he's jacked up. So he asked me how far it was, and I lied. I said it was 234 to the front, pins on 16, 250. But as soon as I said that, I said, "What are you doing? There's a lake in front of the green. It's Sunday of Augusta. And you're going to jack the yardage down 7 yards? This has got to be the dumbest thing." So now I'm thinking, I got to stop this. I can't do this. I got to say, let me re-walk it. I added or subtracted wrong or whatever it was. I got to get out of this. By now, he's got the 3-wood out. He's getting ready to hit, and I'm debating. I got to go timeout. I think I gave you the wrong yardage. as this is going on, some handheld CBS cameraman's running behind us, and now this is going to be a live TV. This blunder that I'm making, the dumbest decision in the history of Augusta National and the Masters. And by this time, he's waggling, and it's, I'm just sitting there. The private has no excuse, sir. That's what I used to say in Marine Corps boot camp. And he hit this shot. And I think when he started his downswing, I started screaming, "Get up!" But I'm sure I waited till he hit it. It's the most beautiful shot you ever saw. High draw, right at it. Most beautiful shot I've ever seen. And I'm screaming, "Get up!" And he says, "No, don't worry about it. That's there." Thinking, wow. I forgot to tell you, I gave you the wrong yardage, pal. And fortunately, he landed it on the green, and it rolled right past the hole, just off the back edge of the green, about 15 feet. And he two-putted, and he parred the last 3 holes, and I think finished 5th. So that was a great tournament for Jay. I think he shot 67 the last day.
Right.
67 the last day to Augusta, and get in the hunt and perform well, and you played with Nicklaus 1 round. So he lived in Greenville, South Carolina, and he was going home, and the next tournament was Hilton Head, which wasn't far away. I think it was only like a 2-hour drive, maybe. And he said, "I'll see you Tuesday morning at Hilton Head," because he always liked 7 o'clock. He always liked to play practice rounds early. He hated practice rounds, oddly enough. And he hated playing with a lot of other people because all they're doing is chipping and putting, and he's sitting there watching them chip and putt, and it's really not helping him. So we got there at 7, and he said, "Let's just go to the first tee. I'm not going to hit any balls." So we went out first. This is 2 of us. Along with being a recovering alcoholic, I'm a recovering Catholic. So I have a lot of guilt issues, And so now I think I'm in the confessional, "Bless me, player, for I have sinned," And I said, "Jay, I have a confession to make to you." And he goes, "What's that? That you gave me the wrong yardage on 15 on Sunday?" I said, I knew where the sprinkler was. And he said, "I wanted you to talk me out of laying up. And I do recall you telling me that your father said you only gamble when you're swinging good." He says, "So you read the situation perfectly." So now all of a sudden I'm feeling like the best caddy. I'm going to go into the stories about Augusta with Iron Man and Carl Jackson, and Bill Harmon here. And so I said, "Well, that's very nice of you to say, but hypothetically, let's say you hit a little bit off the neck or a little bit thin and that thing landed in the middle of the lake. Would that have been good caddy?" He said, "I wouldn't have asked you to be at Hilton Head at 7 o'clock on Tuesday." So it worked out to be a fun story. So the dumbest and best caddy move in the history of the Masters.
That's awesome. We're looking ahead to this year's Masters. What are you looking for this year? Who obviously relationships with, obviously with your brother, and you have a good pulse. I saw that Rory spent a little time with Butch.
Yeah.
Saw that.
This is a perfect Butch story. Okay,
so I can't wait.
You have to remember that Butch and I are brothers. Okay, so we were brothers before the Golf Digest teaching rankings ever came out. Okay. Mm-hmm. Born in 1943, I was 1950. I don't think they had golf teaching rankings out. So we're brothers first. But he likes to spray his turf. He's a little bit like the lion in the jungle, A
little bit.
Going pee on those trees, to spray his turf. So he texted me that he'd spent 4 hours, I think, with Rory. Now, you're a golf professional. Jackson, you're a golf professional. So imagine it was your brother, Butch Harmon, the best teacher ever. And I think I can say that without question of the professional golfer. So a logical question from his brother, who's also a reasonable teacher, certainly not at his ilk, which I understand, but, okay, that little success. "What are you working on?" I text back. He texts back, "Playing better." "Oh, really?"
No shit.
I thought you were working on playing worse, So playing better. So I'm not some, random writer asking him this question. He's at home in his living room. I'm at home in my living room. "What are you working on?" "Playing better" is all it said. So then I said, "Well, no, you know what?" So then he decided to he would tell me. So, like I said, it's cool being a Harmon.
No, I think it's cool, and
It is cool, by the way.
It is.
In fact,
Oh,
he just called me while I was on this thing with you. I always enjoy not picking up when he calls.
It probably pisses him off a little bit.
Could be a little bit, yeah. He's good. He's great.
But now, who do you look for this week? And who are, when I saw that Rory went to see him, I mean, look, you know this.
Oh, he's already changed his ritual.
Okay.
Coach told him to get in there late Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Don't play in the par 3 on Wednesday. You've already been there. You played the practice.
Done it.
You know the course. Don't go there and, Monday and answer questions for 3 straight days. So he's already changed that a little bit. Butch, like anyone, I'm sure, told him, you just have to play. It's easy to say you have a chance to win the Grand Slam. I'm only the 6th player, I believe, to do that. But from tee to green, the course is made for this guy.
Correct.
It really is. I mean, it's made for him. Now, as great players go, he's a very inconsistent good putter, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty Scheffler is, which is very odd to me that you can be the number 1 player in the world. I think the place is made for Scotty.
Yeah.
Because putts average, because Scotty is a masterful golfer. He works the ball and plays all kinds of shots. He is really, really good. Right before I came on with you, I texted Claude III, and I said, how are Koepka and DJ playing? And he said they're in good form, and I'd be surprised if they're not in contention on Sunday. So that's coming from the horse's mouth. Of course, Butch is going to say that he thinks Rory will do well. Butch will be there, so he might be able to spend some time with Rory. I don't bet favorites. I like long shots. This Neiman kid is interesting to me.
Yes.
Very interesting to me. I love natural players that are good. And he's got his own swing, and everybody says he's going to break his back. Well, he might, but he might win about 20 tournaments before he breaks his back. And if he changes his swing, he might not win any. So I look at him as a kind of a dark horse. I'm somewhat surprised how Jordan Spieth has kind of leveled out now for a few years. Not knocking, he's still one of the best in the world, but he, like Rory, became a product of his own brilliance as a young man, so we tend to expect more. Justin Thomas is an interesting case to me because he seems to want it almost so bad that he can't play.
Right.
Almost like he doesn't let the tournament come to him. His desire to win. So I don't think that's choking. To me, choking is being afraid to win. Choking actually is normal. The people that don't choke are abnormal. So I don't like the choker label because that's what normal people do. And so I wonder about him because he's so good. He's won 2 majors. He's won a Players Championship, which I consider a major for me. But he doesn't perform in all the other majors that well. I think he's missed 3 or 4 cuts in a row in majors. You're one of the best players in the world. I don't ever recall Jack missing 3 or 4 cuts in a row in majors, or Arnold, or Lee, or Gary, or so. To me, he's an interesting case that I think he. And I don't know the answer to it. I mean, how do you tell someone not to try too hard, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't seem to let the tournament come to him like some of the other great ones do.
What'd you make of him and Bones splitting this week?
I just texted Butch and said, did he know anything? And he said he's called Bones, but Bones hasn't picked up. Having been a caddy for a long time, those relationships are, the caddy spends more time with the player the week of a tournament than the wife does. You're with the player under extreme duress. So you're essentially the whipping boy, and so it's very easy, I think, you already know this, Jackson probably knows it. It's very easy for a player and a coach to get stale after a few years.
It happens.
Yeah, me too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you get tired of saying the same thing, and they get tired of listening to the same thing. It actually makes total sense to me. And so same thing with caddies. You get out there, and JT really hasn't performed well since he won Southern Hills, I don't think. Patrick Cantley hasn't necessarily performed great with Joe LaCava.
No. Mm-mm.
Think about it. So all these guys that think they're going to change caddies, and that's going to get them over the hump. I don't think that happens that often. I really don't. I've often said this, and the tour caddies don't like it, but you give me a bad player and a good caddy, you're still a bad player. You give me a good player and a bad caddy, you're still a good player.
True.
Now, if you give me a good caddy and a good player, you'll probably be a little better player. But
what do you think about Ricky?
That much difference, in my opinion. It's like a quarterback. If you're playing on a bad team, you're not going to look that good,
Right. No, true.
It is true. I'm not knocking
Great
what
quarterback
the do. I get the whole thing.
team.
Believe me, I get it.
Yep.
I've been there. I've made great decisions to help win tournaments, and I've made bad decisions that help lose tournaments. So I've done both.
How about Ricky?
Well, Butch said he's had a sinus infection this year. And when I was watching the TV before it came on, I think he was 5 over today. Butch he said he was hitting it pretty good, but he's kind of had not a good start this season after a heck of a year last year.
Great. Yeah.
And so, but there's another one of my things. Does that mean, obviously last year, the story with he and Butch, you can't deny it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Had 4 years, terrible years. Butch comes back off to the races. Now, is Butch teaching worse this year? I don't think so. So, we both know and all three of us know if the player's not playing good, it's hard to coach, man.
This is probably, every time I get the chance to talk to you or been able to talk to your brother, I always try to glean something probably more for myself than the crowd. But
I do too, by the way. I'm always trying to learn. That's what we're supposed to do. All three of us are learning.
Yeah. You talked about how it's easy for, we just talked about how the message gets stale, right? Like you get
very much so.
But then, Bill, oftentimes the player, whether it's a coach or a caddy, they go to another person.
Yeah.
And then they don't. I mean, it does work sometimes that a new message does spark something, but more often than not, I would venture to say that it doesn't.
Butch said to me one time, you find out what kind of teacher you are when you see how the player plays when he leaves you.
Mm.
And if he doesn't get better, then maybe whoever was his coach wasn't wrong, you see.
Right.
Think about that. How many of Butch's players that have left him have gotten much better? Pretty hard to see.
No? It'd be hard to.
Because you can't tell me that they forgot everything Butch told them.
Correct.
Right? The players that you've worked with, that you've had success with, they didn't forget everything that Tony.
I hope not.
They still carry that with them, and that still helps them. But we're in a day and age with social media. A friend of mine said it best. Critics always shoot up. They don't shoot down. So if you're any good at anything today, people are going to be jealous and envious, and they'll try to tear you apart. And so you have to have some pretty thick skin today if you're going to be a coach or play in professional sports with the media and stuff, because I think there's a lot of people that want to tear you down. That's why I would tell most coaches that if their players playing pretty good, don't be jumping around like Tarzan out on that 18th green when he wins. You just meet him over in the clubhouse when it's all over and give him a hug and say, I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
But it's hard because our profession, you guys aren't Harmons. I grew up with this stuff, so I have a built-in kind of reputation. But it's hard if you get one of those guys and it's like your time in the sun, it's something you've always wanted to do. Then you start bringing attention to yourself.
Yeah, it's tough.
Maybe we missed 2 or 3 cuts in a row, and now Tony's not a good teacher. What do you mean? He had the guy that won 3 weeks ago. He didn't decide to teach differently the last 3 weeks. The game is hard, and you were really cutting hairs when you're working with a tour pro. If you get him a half a shot better around,
An amazing job.
it's 2 shots a tournament. You know how much more money that is? Could be millions, multi-millions. Half a shot around. Half a shot higher. See you later.
Yeah.
You're out of here, baby. So that's how hard it is to teach the expert golfer. Everybody thinks it's easy. How many times you been out there after they've missed 2 cuts in a row and the next week they shoot 75 on Thursday and you're out there Friday afternoon trying to find something to get them to make the cut? It's no fun at all, baby. No.
You know, and I mean, I know you've seen this. How many times have you been with a guy Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they look like there's no way they could play bad golf? And then Thursday, you know, or right? I mean, and it's also been the opposite way too. I've had guys that, I mean, like on Tuesday, Wednesday, you're like, you know, and then
I have an interesting view on golf because, like Scotty Scheffler, you know, could have easily won last week.
Right.
But he won the 2 previous weeks. Okay. So now people are taking shots at him, you know, because he's not putting as well as we think he should. So they said, can you believe that he missed that putt on the last hole? I said, actually, sometimes I find it harder to believe that you can make that putt with all the pressure on you. You know, who's to say that's an automatic putt from 5 feet going left to right? You know? So I always look at the people that can make them consistently as abnormal, and the people that occasionally miss them, they're just normal. So I know how hard golf is. I never take it for granted. In fact, the days that they hit it good on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm a little more nervous. And maybe if they're not playing good going into it, sometimes they muster this grind inside them. They grind and they grind, and they might find something Friday morning on the range after turning a 73 into a 70 the first round. And they could win the tournament then. So it's very hard to get a trend line on most golfers. You know, some of the great ones you can. But I just think the game is so hard to me, I don't see how anybody wins a tournament. How are you going to beat 150 of the best players in the world? You know how many things you got to do right to beat the other 149 that are really good? So I don't know how you win a tournament. So I have kind of the opposite thing. I exalt the people that are even in contention. I really do.
Bill, this was awesome. Jackson, you got any questions back there?
Can we flash back to Augusta?
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite holes out there?
Well, the most comical holes and the most comical question in the history of caddying is you're getting the yardage on the 12th tee. And it seems like you're in the Colosseum in Rome because these people are right on top of you. The bleachers and the people and this little small tee. And there's nobody between the 11th green and the 12th tee. So you walk up this hill and you can feel it. You can feel how special this is. So you're getting the yardage and you look at the flag on 11 and it's blowing to the left. Then you look at the flag on 12 and it's blowing to the right. And then you nervously pick up the grass and throw it up on the tee like that's going to make any difference. And it's coming into you. And the player says to you, what do you think the wind is doing? And I've always wanted to say, how the hell do I know? No one's figured it out since 1934. And so that hole is such a, if the wind is blowing, it's almost an impossible hole. You've got to hit a great shot and then you got to get lucky. There are certain shots that I don't think get enough. The second shot on 13, you know, we'll be watching it on TV. The guy's hitting a 4-iron and they think it's automatic. You've got an uphill, side hill lot. From the front left to the green to the front right to cover is an extra 23 yards. So you got a hook lie. The Tour Pro or any good player is going to protect this thing hooking. But if you hold on and you don't hook it, you hit it in the water, you see, with a pretty good shot. So when you see these guys just flush these things into the middle of the green, you just can't believe what a good shot that is. And I think that shot is very underrated, how difficult that is to hit a long iron off that lie and just put it right in the middle of the green is a great shot. I think the second shot on 15 is much harder than it looks because there's no depth perception behind the hole. It's sitting like a tabletop. Now there's trees, but they're not like a glove, you know.
So they're back a little bit, yeah.
When the ball's in the air, you have no idea where it's coming down. You don't know whether to get up, get down, whatever. So I think that's a very odd hole. And I think I think one of the hardest shots at deceptively is when the pin's in the back right on 17. Okay. If you go 1 yard too far and you're down there on that 18th tee, and good luck there.
Isn't that where Kenny Perry hit it?
Yes. And so I think there are shots that you don't realize how difficult they are. And actually, the second shot on 18 is very hard. You've got that uphill lie to a very narrow green. The first hole is deceptively hard. I think the tee shot on number 7 is weird because you start out with a pretty wide open tee shot, and all of a sudden you get like this really tough hole. Like, whoa, where'd this come from? And then they float you around and they give you a similar look on 18. You know, you've been just airing it out, you know. And so 7 is interesting to me. Pin placements dictate a lot of strategy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what they do there, which is interesting. They lure you into the wrong place to miss it. So I'll give you Tony's pin there. The pin's in the back left on number 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Your instincts are to put it into the middle of the green. Now you got a 40-footer, you're coming uphill. When it gets uphill, it's going straight downhill, down green. It's hard to get that putt within 6 feet. But if you shoot at the flag and miss it left, you're chipping straight uphill into the green. You actually have an easier chip shot. If the pin's in the back right on 14 and you go over the green, you're chipping back uphill, very easy shot. Very easy shot. And so some of the pin placements, if the pin's in the front left on number 3, you go over the green, you're chipping back uphill. But your instincts aren't to short side yourself. Your instincts aren't to go over the green. You know, so you find yourself being lured into what you think is a safe shot, and it bites you in the hiney. So I think that's part of the genius of the design of the course.
Have any of the holes gotten better with the length?
See, I don't mind the length because I'd rather see him hitting, 7-iron into 11 than a lob wedge. 7-iron's too little club as far as I'm concerned. So it doesn't make any difference. You can't make a course too long anyway. You really can't. I think number 4 at 250 is a little much, but they don't normally put it at 250 either. So even with number 5 with the new back tee, they're hitting 6-7 irons, and they can hit it 10,000 feet in the air. So when the pin's in the back right on number 6, that's a tough shot, boy, because you don't know what the wind's doing,
I think 5
on that ledge.
I think 5's a really hard hole.
Oh my God. That's one of those holes where 1 yard can make, or 1 foot can make it.
To me, I've just watched a few guys I've had being like, man, that's just a hard hole.
You know that Jack made 2 twos there 1 year?
No.
On 5? I believe that's true.
Ow!
Oh, out of second shot. I think he made 2 twos in the same year. I could be wrong there.
I got to look this up.
But I think he did.
Holy shit. No way.
You didn't tell me we could swear on this show.
Yeah, this is a
my
podcast.
My wife just said you can't.
Oh, come on. Tell Robin you're allowed.
Yeah. In 1995, Jack Nicklaus became the first person to eagle the 5th hole twice in the same tournament.
So you thought, I couldn't make that up.
No, but I would have
make that up unless it was true.
Yeah.
How about that?
The first round of the 3rd round.
I think one was a 7-iron.
Yeah, 7-iron on Saturday.
And a 5-iron maybe the other day?
Doesn't say, but the first round they flew it right into the hole.
Okay.
What year was that, Jackson?
95.
That's the year Jay was leading after two rounds. Shot 71-64.
Oof.
Shot 64 at Riviera the same year in a major. So he shot 264s in the same year in major championships. Pretty cool.
What's one of your most memorable rounds on the bag?
Well, same tournament. Two different reasons. I caddied for Mike Donald in his first Masters.
Okay.
And he shot 64, had a 3-shot lead. Back then, they repaired you after the first round. So we were in the last group on Friday.
When did they stop that, by the way? When did they stop that?
Shortly thereafter, I think. And so he went into the press room, and he just talked about Claude Harmon's son, and former Masters champion. And boy, how great he was out there and all this stuff, And, man, I was the king of Augusta. And then the next day he shot 82. And so I'd have to say there were things that happened that round, if you have a couple minutes, that were funny.
Yes.
He had two beautiful shots on the first hole. I could drive in a 4-iron about 20 feet. And he putted it down about 2 feet. He had a straight uphill putt and he kind of yanked it. And then the second hole, he was right above the hole, was in the back left. He had this downhill slider. And I said to him, I said, you got to watch the speed on this thing. It's okay to try to make it, but it better be going slow. And he lipped out, ran about 15 feet by, and he 3-putted that. Hit the first 5 greens, and he was 4 over. He 3-putted 4 times.
Wow.
And I think he came to 13. He was 5 over for the round, but 3 under for the tournament. Maybe 4 or 5 under was still leading. And he had a 3-iron about 8 feet. The pin was over in the back right behind the hole. And I told him the same thing about what I told him about the putt on number 2. This is faster than you think it is. Ran that 5 feet by and he missed it. So there we go. So we're walking across. We're going down 14 now, and there's a crosswalk there. And I don't know this, but I think Georgia Southern, where he went to school, their colors are green and black, I think. And this guy had like a green and black sweatsuit on or something. It was Georgia Southern. Now, Mike is fuming. Mike is salty anyway. And they stop the guys in the crosswalk, and this guy starts screaming at Mike, come on, Mike, you got this. I got you in the pool back at school. Come on, Mike, you got this point. I'm thinking, man, get past this dude, So the next hole, he hits a drive, and the guy's in the crosswalk again. Come on, Mike, I got you in the pool, blah, 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 you're playing great, the whole thing. We're 3-putting every green. So right about then, they had a weather condition where they told people to start exiting the grounds, but they weren't stop and play. One of those storms kind of blew in. It was windy. So now about 2 holes later, there's nobody there. We're in the last group of Augusta on Friday. It was like eerie, 12 people there. Well, plus we're 7 over for the round. So he hits a drive right off the heel on 18. It just zooms right into the trees. And we have no idea where it is. And there's a guy there, and he was a Southerner, and he says, hey, Mike, your ball hit on top of the bathroom here, because there's a bathroom over there by the 8th tee. It's in between 8 and 18.
Mm-hmm.
It hit on top of the roof of the bathroom here, and it fell down into that tributary, and it went down that pipe there. I think that ball's in the Savannah River. We're like in the twilight zone, and this guy's telling us. But see, we didn't see where the ball went. So my mind is thinking, if you didn't see the ball, I don't know whether it's lost or is this a ground? What is it? Because it's not marked. Nothing is marked. So at this point, our head is spinning, and we're in this twilight zone. We're shooting a million. We don't know where our ball is. This guy said it's in the Savannah River. And here comes the fan from Georgia Southern. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike, I got you in the pool. Hang in there, man. You're playing good. And Mike says, you can take that pool and shove it up your blankety blank blank. Because I don't give a blank about your blanking pool. So now the official comes down, and it's PJ Boatwright. head of the USGA.
Oh, wow.
Mike lights him up before he gets out of the cart. How long have you been marking this course? 1934? Don't you have a book? You just follow this book. Don't you know how to mark a course? You're the president of the PGA. And I'm thinking, whoa, here, Mike, we need to get this to maybe be a one-shot penalty, not lost ball or something, And Mike is all over this guy, just all over him. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to get in there, like a referee, boy, and stop this. And PJ Boatwright, to his credit, said, well, Mike, we never thought anybody would hit it here. So he made triple and shot. It was only a one-shot penalty somehow, some way. So now we'll fast forward to the next year. That year, the U.S. Open's at Medina. And Mike Donald comes to the 72nd hole with a par to win. And he bogeyed.
Right.
Goes into an 18-hole playoff with Hale Irwin. In the playoff, he has a 2-shot lead with 3 to play. And Irwin hits a 2-iron 6 feet on 16 and makes a birdie. Mike bogeys 18 again. Okay. So now they got to go sudden death. And this is what we kind of say that God has a sense of humor. Who do you think the referee of that match was?
Oh, boy.
Right. Okay. So they get on the 19th hole. And Mike was right about this, by the way. Mike was 100% correct about what happens. They get on the 19th hole, and PJ says, Mr. Irwin, you have the honor. And Mike says, well, why does he have the honor? He said, well, you made a 5 on the last hole, and he made a 4. But Mike said, this isn't match play. We signed those scorecards, and we handed them to you, by the way, which meant that round is complete.
Mm-hmm.
We draw straws to see who tees off first.
Mm-hmm.
What I did on the last hole's got absolutely nothing with who tees off first here. And he's right, by the way. Mm-hmm. Once you sign that card, right, Tony, the round's over.
It's a new deal.
It is a new deal.
Right.
And so at this point, Mike says to him, well, himself, where am I going with this? I'm getting into this fight with this guy again. And Irwin, he said it didn't make any difference. But he said, I would have rather driven first. And if I got it in the fairway, He said we both hit drives and Hale birdied the hole to beat him. But isn't it funny that, Mr. Irwin, you have the honor? You got to believe that he remembered that scene. and a part of me kind of understand it. Lighten him up. How long have you been marking this course? 1934? You don't know how to mark the goddamn golf course? So I hate to say that the 64-82 was the most memorable, but it was most memorable, I think, because of PJ and the Georgia Southern fan who finally got his just due on the 18th hole there.
Gosh, that's beautiful. Bill, this has been awesome. I can't thank you. Yeah, seriously, thanks for taking the time. Thanks, Robin, for letting us
good talking to you. Good seeing you again, Jackson.
Yep.
Glad you're all doing well.
Sir, thank you for your time.
Let's do it again sometime.
If I'm a good lefty out of the bullpen when you need one.
No, you're the best. Thank you for everything.
Guys, thank you.
Look forward to catching up.
Sir.
Thanks a lot.
I just want to remind everybody something that I forgot. Recently, a couple weeks ago, my wife and I went out. We went to a wedding, and afterwards with some friends, we were like, hey, where's a great place to go? I'll be honest, in my travels and day-to-day, sometimes I get caught up and I forget some of the great places right around the corner. But I got to remind you about the Ice Box Bar on 755 Monroe Street. I was blown away by just the whole vibe, the atmosphere, and with the Velvet Pig, the food in the back room, and the big screen TVs up front. We sat there and watched some playoff games. I was blown away by the atmosphere, the vibe, and just how cool it was to have the Icebox Bar right here near the Dew Sweepers downtown, near where I live. You're looking for a great place to go sit, watch some games, hang out, play some pool, you got to go to the Icebox Bar right there on Monroe Street. There's a good chance you'll see all of us hanging out. But do yourself a favor, go visit the Icebox. It's one of the best places out there. Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero. And look, recently, several teachers I know and several players have had some scares with skin cancer. In fact, I recently went and saw a dermatologist here in town, and I had a couple things frozen off, eyelid, my face, my earlobe, and not getting any younger. And I know it's getting to that time of the season where it's cooler, but look, being in the sun is a real deal, and I've not been very good, to be totally honest, my whole career at using it at all because I didn't like how greasy it was, how hard it was to get off your hands, how it clogged up my pores. And then I found this sunscreen, Visor Skincare. It's clear, it goes on, it doesn't dry you out, it isn't greasy, it's like you didn't put anything on it. By far, it's the best sunscreen I've ever used. Without a doubt, is the easiest to use. And we've got a discount code for all of you. All you have to do is go to visorskincare.com, use our code word DEWSWEEPER. visorskincare.com, code word DEWSWEEPER.